They're on the road again. It's back out east for a quartet of games starting in Beantown. We get you set for the Oilers and the Bruins right here on the Oil Stream pregame show. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the pregame show right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Tom Gazzola with you. Zach DeCum at the helm here at the EST Global HQ. Matt Kassian joining us a little bit later on for Game Changers, and the one and only Eric Russo from Bruins TV will stop by in about 25 minutes or so, because Jim Montgomery's speaking to the media in 10 minutes, and then Russo will stop by and give us the scoop on what the Bruins head coach had to say, as well as the Bruins' point of view going into action tonight. You can join the conversation, as always. Get at us in the inbox, 780-218-9999, and if you're watching on YouTube, hello. How are you? Smash that thumbs up button on your way in, as well as get in on the conversation via the Nasty Chat if you're tuning in on iHeartRadio or TuneIn. Muy bueno. And if you're on our EdmontonSportsTalk.com audio player, that works just as nicely, and we appreciate that. Indeed, the 37-20-2 taking on the 36-13-14 Boston Bruins. It is game number 60 for the Edmonton Oilers, and so far so good of late, and we'll see if the Oilers can extend their winning streak coming off a nice night versus the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we'll see if the good times will roll for the orange and blue. Let's get Zach to come in here early on. Hello, Zach to come. It's been a little while for you, pal. You doing all right? What's going on?
Yeah, no, I'm doing amazing. Haven't done a pre or post in a little bit, so I'm glad to be here. Yeah. It's been a couple weeks, I think. I think I remember everything. I was testing it out just to make sure the show is running well, and we're going good so far.
Hey, you've got the Tino Vaselino going tonight. I like that.
Yeah,
a good look.
Put too much Swedish hair cream in my
Are you using Swedish hair cream
now? I don't know. I mean, you know, your hair's looking so good, so I thought I had to go try and get some Swedish hair cream. I'm Swedish, so.
Are you actually?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
There you go. You have Swedish hair cream. What do you think about tonight's action?
It's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
I mean, last game 6-5 in overtime. I knew a few people who went to that game. I'm pretty sure YouTube Trev was at that game.
Yep.
And it looked like a blast. I mean, even though it was a loss in overtime for the Oilers, it was a fantastic game. Like, probably the most exciting game of the season, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, that when I was watching, like, if I was at that game.
Hot takes, Zach, to come.
Hot takes, I know. And
it was an exciting game, though.
Oh, it was fantastic. But tonight's game, I feel like it's going to be a close one again.
Yeah.
A little bit less scoring. Both teams going to be battling it out. Boston, as we were talking right before the show, they've, 22 times in overtime?
Games in OT this year.
Yeah.
63.
And they're, 8-14?
Yep.
As we did the math on that. Well, you did.
Well, but, you verified it.
Yes.
Which I appreciate.
And it has a possibility of going there again, but you know what? It's going to be really close, and that's why. That's why I think it could go to overtime.
We're not going over 10.5 goals tonight like we did the other time?
No, 10.5 over, no.
All right. We'll see what happens. All right, Zach, to come. Good to have you in tow. Nice to be back in studio with you. And if you have any questions for Zach to come, fire them away at the text line or at the Nasty Chat. And Zach to come will monitor those, among other things. He's a busy boy. He's a busy boy today. Mo Jaber. Hello, Mo. Good to hear from you. Says, good day, Tommy. Does the Gagner move on waivers mean a deal is in the works for the Oilers? I was just told today that it's intended to save cap space for now. Yes, they want to save as much and accrue as much cap space in the next few days to try to maximize what they can get back in a return in a trade. So it does have trade implications. Whether or not something's cooking right now where the plate is hot. That I'm not so sure of. It seems like it's been quiet on the Oilers front outside of today's move. And so, I mean, it's going to heat up really, really quickly. But right now, the waters seem somewhat calm outside of this Gagner thing. So people freaking out over the Gagner thing. I've had people texting people, what are they doing? What? Not again. He's going to get picked up. I doubt it. And they did waive him, and the purpose is to send him back down to Bakersfield. He knew going into the year that this was something that could happen. He agreed to it when he took the PTO with the Oilers and then signed the deal with them, that this was a possibility. I'm pretty sure we will see Sam Gagner back up with the big club at some point in the near future, but this is to accrue as much cap space as possible. And then the other thing really quickly to get to, because I know we've talked about it on the station, we've talked about it on the Oil Stream, I was told in regard to the switch on defense with Nurse paired up with Desharnais and Kulak with Ceci. As of right now, that's more so to get Nurse and Ceci away from one another because they have had their struggles in their own zone in the last couple of weeks. So that's the rationale I was given. Yes, would they upgrade Ceci if there was one available? Yes, sure. But are they going to blow a hole in the back end to trade for a forward? Unlikely. Unlikely. So there you go. That's what I've been told. I'm passing it along to you. Use it how you will. Cross-reference it with whatever someone else said and talk amongst yourselves. But passing along the information I was given today to you, I will bring it back up later on in the show. 780-218-9999. And get at us in the nasty chat. I love it. People are getting juiced up for the trade deadline. We're going to have an excellent deadline day coverage-wise. An extended Oil Stream. We're going to go from 11 to 2, I believe it is. And we'll be all over it. Should be a lot of fun. Barry the Cheater says, Tommy G and Zach to come. Big Uke says, productivity has come to an all-time low for the next hour. Love the early pre-games. And then Connor McJesus. Is that your real name? I doubt it. Says, Tommy heard about any of our players as quote-unquote throw-ins in trades. LOI, I mean included in trades. Not yet. Not yet. But I know I'll be working the phones and trying to get as much information as I can. Of course, the big insiders always quick to the punch. And they're generally really, really good at outlining what is in the works. My go-to, completely biased. He's our guy on Hello Hockey on Saturdays, David Pagnotta. Him and Dennis Bernstein, our LA Kings insider, and Aaron Ward just put out a video with an update on things that have been going around the NHL as of today. And lots of New Jersey Devils talk, lots of Golden Knights speculation, some Kings chatter in there as well. Surprisingly, nothing Oilers related, but if you want to check it out to kind of get a sense of what's going on out there and how it might affect things in terms of the Oilers and kind of try to get a better sense, I highly recommend checking out what the boys at the fourth period were breaking down from today. So there you go. You're up to date. If anything changes, I'll let you know, and we'll proceed that way. All right, let's take a look now really quickly at the question of the day. I have two of them because Zach Dickham brought something up that I actually appreciate. It has something to do with YouTube Trev, who's off tonight. He's taking part in physical activities, some kind of sport thing he's doing. So we wish him well. And it opens up the door for Zach Dickham to get in on the action, which I appreciate. Questions of the day. Zach Dickham, put yourself on here because it's going to involve you. First of all, how will the Oilers do on this 4-game road trip? Boston, Columbus, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh. Let us know your thoughts, 780-218-9999, as well as the nasty chat. And then the second thing, Zach, to come, because you were talking about this, you're like, I'd love to play against YouTube Trev on NHL 24. YouTube Trev, I talked to him today when he was in. He was in the top 50 worldwide for NHL 24. He hasn't been playing that much lately, so he's fallen just outside of the top 100, and he says if he had like a good day of playing, he'd probably shoot back up to top 50. That's how good he is. So YouTube Trev is just outside the top 100 in the world in the EA Sports NHL 24 rankings. He did get into the top 50. Would you watch him play if he streamed his games live on our EST YouTube channel? Say it's a quiet night, not really anything going on, and he goes head-to-head in a 3-game series with Zach DeCum. Would you watch that? Or watch him take on other highly ranked players in the world of EA Sports NHL 24? Zach DeCum, you want to play YouTube Trev.
I do. I want to challenge him. I mean, I'm scared at the fact that he's going to absolutely wreck me in a game. I haven't played the new game, to be fair. I play 23 still, so I'm a year behind.
Killed.
But I might get destroyed. It does. I mean, everything's different. I mean, if you guys know EA, they change games
every year. The nuances are annoying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
They changed it big time. Well, a little bit, but I would watch him. Honestly, if I didn't have the honor of playing against him, it would be an honor playing against Trev. This. Top 100 in the world. I mean, you can't get... You're top 100 in the world. Like, what do you say to the kid?
To discover about our dear YouTube Trev, isn't it?
Yeah. When he told me that, I was shocked because I've ran into a couple people who've said it. I haven't seen proof of Trev. Like, he hasn't pulled up the leaderboards or anything. I believe his word. He's a trustworthy guy, so I believe him. And I just would love to see him play and see how good he is, because apparently he played the #1 player in the world at one point and lost 3-2 in overtime.
Yeah, a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Remember him telling me about that. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Never thought anything of it. And he's like, yeah, I'm like top 50. I'm like, wow. Okay. But now it's kind of taken on a little bit of a life of its own, which is really neat. And being a video game geek and having played that series since I was like 6 or 7 years old, yeah, it's pretty neat. But you would sacrifice yourself and try to play him, basically.
Yeah, I would volunteer as tribute and playing playing a 3-game series against him, maybe even 5. Yeah. I feel like I'd, maybe take the first couple games to feel his playing style out. But I play... I'm not going to say too much if he's watching right now. If he gets the game plan going, he can't take that. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's on his...
He's like
that's okay.
Or something.
All right, well, if that's the case, I play pretty aggressive. I like trying to score more goals and, playing defense, because I can't play defense. So I just score as many as I can and...
See what happens.
Yeah, hope I can get the win. So.
And then how about for the question of the day in regard to the 4-game road trip? What say you? They get Boston, they get Columbus, they get Buffalo, and they wrap it up in Pitt on Sunday.
Tonight's going to be the biggest challenge for the Oilers with the Bruins. Buffalo and Pittsburgh as well.
Columbus mopped up Vegas last night, but maybe that's more indicative of how the Golden Knights are playing lately.
Yeah, they've been a little bit shaky. Yeah. I mean, Mark Stone being out and Jack Eichel just, I don't know if he played the previous game, but I saw that he was supposed to be back in the lineup.
He was back yesterday, yeah.
So
didn't help.
I believe it, but great player, but coming back, of course, it takes a little bit to get in, but realistically, the Oilers should be able to go 3-1 or, pretty decently go 2-1-1. I feel like Pittsburgh, if they play at the top of their game, I mean...
We saw what happened the other night.
We saw what happened. Yeah. So if something changes drastically, I don't know. 3-1-0 for the Oilers in the next 4 games on the road trip, I think.
I think that's reasonable. I like it, Zach DeCum sacrificing himself to the EA Sports NHL gods, a.k.a. YouTube Trev, who is just outside the top 100 in the world EA Sports NHL 24 rankings. I believe him wholeheartedly. It's not something he's not a liar. He's very nonchalant, and he doesn't brag or anything. He's just like, yeah, I like to play, and I'm pretty good, and I got into the top 50 in the world. It's like, damn. And then one of our listeners, his son, goes by Uninstall, and he's right up there as well. And he's taken part in the World Championships 2 of the last 3 years. I can't remember who it was. I can't remember which listener, but if I went into the text line, I'd find it. But Uninstall, Trev said he's come across him a couple of times, and he's really, really good. So we've got some good EA Sports NHL series players in Oil Country. No questions asked there. But I'll ask you this question. to our lovely viewers and listeners. How will the Oilers do on this 4-game road trip? And would you watch YouTube, Trev, and maybe even Zach to come, if we streamed their games on EA Sports NHL 24 on our EST YouTube channel? What say you? We would like to hear all about your thoughts there. Let's see what else we got. Retro Oiler 99 says, I played what would be called NHL 94, the original. I vividly remember NHL 94. I had it. I had 95. I had 96, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up until like 2021, and then I just gave up on it.
I think I had I've played 99 before. It comes with NHL 23, like you could play the retro version of it and stuff, which is pretty cool. But I think I started playing a lot in like the 09, 10, 11. My brother had all those games, and he's 10 years older than I am, so we had all the games growing up, probably from 03. Like I probably have the whole collection sitting somewhere for the original Xbox 360 and stuff. And man, what a time to be alive playing those games. The glory era of that game. Yeah, the glory era of the NHL series is probably from 2011 to 2014 was a sweet spot for me.
Those were good games. And they kind of got a little bit stale. Really quickly, we've got some breaking news. The Vegas Golden Knights have acquired Anthony Mantha from Washington. Dreg's putting that out a few minutes ago, so that is confirmed. Anthony Mantha off to Vegas, and we'll see what goes back the other way. And it sounds like Jake Gensel will be traded. Do not expect him to be traded to the Oilers. That would be highly unlikely. I'll just say that.
That would be a move I would make in NHL 24 GM mode, but
of course,
yeah, not something I would like to see actually happen.
Listen, he's a great player. He really is. I think a different type of winger would be a better fit for the Oilers. I'm assuming the ask is astronomical. It probably is, but I don't think Edmonton's leaning that way. I was told last week it's probably not him, but this is interesting. So there you go. Anthony Mantha, according to Dregs, off to Vegas from Washington. We'll see what the return is there for the big dude, Anthony Mantha. All right, let's see what's going on. Are we crack-a-lacking in the inbox before we get into lineups and checking out some audio and video? Coach Mike says, make it 5 games in a row tonight. Oil need to put pressure on Vancouver. The march for the Pacific Crown continues. Coach Mike Gelly reminding us that Vegas acquired Mantha. Thank you, Gelly. Big Uke says, on this road trip, they get 6 points. Don't really care how. I'd say they win tonight, and they end up losing to Buffalo or Columbus because that's what they do. But 6 out of 8 points for sure. And then also Connors within 3 points of NHL lead by the end of the trip. Ooh, Big Uke with the swipe saying, hey, maybe we see McDavid close to the league lead in points. Andy Pandy says 2-1-1 on the road trip. Losing Boston in OT tonight. Wins in Columbus and Pitt. Loss in Buffalo. Andy Pandy signing off. Nicely done, Andy Pandy. What else do we have here? Cap space. I will use this information to have friendly arguments with my friends. That's from Rip City Step. And then Chris says, Oilers smart to put Gagner in waivers today because had they did so yesterday, they'd be facing him in a Bruins uniform tonight. I don't know if anybody, I don't think anybody picks him up. There's a few others that were put on waivers today as well. All right, let's take a look at lineups for tonight's action. The Oilers and the Bruins closing out the season series back on February 21st here in Edmonton. It was an exciting come-from-behind OT loss for the Oilers. They were down a bunch of goals, got a nice third-period rally together, and ultimately lost in OT for the Oil tonight. McDavid between Draisaitl and Hyman, Nugent-Hopkins with Kane and Janmark, McLeod with Fogle and Perry, Dylan Holloway back at center between Connor Brown on the left side, it sounds like, and Derek Ryan making his return to action on the right side. Chris Knobloch did say expected Derek Ryan to be back for this game. We saw Gagner go in the other night, hit the post off of, was it Nedeljkovic's head, and then it hit the post, slapper from like 20 feet out. I liked it. I liked it. And if you haven't heard, Sam Gagner placed on waivers for the purpose of assignment down to Bakersfield, and the main thing is they're going to accrue some last-second cap space over the next few days heading into the deadline. For the Bruins tonight, we'll see if there's any changes. We'll hear from Eric Russo in about 10 minutes, Bruins TV reporter. But this is how the Bruins rolled out in their 4-1 win in Toronto last night. Pavel Zacha, who had a couple of goals with Danton Heinen and David Pasternak. Charlie Coyle between Brad Marchand and Jake DeBrusk. Morgan Geekie centering James Van Riemsdyk and Trent Frederick. And then you had Jesper Boqvist with Jacob Loco and Justin Brazeau. Matt Grzelcyk with Charlie McAvoy paired up together on the blue line. Mason Lohrei with Brandon Carlo. Parker Witherspoon with Kevin Shattenkirk is how the Bruins went yesterday. No Hampus Lindholm. He's on the IR. Matthew Poitras, IR shoulder. So that is what we're anticipating from the Bruins, unless they want to switch things up and get some fresh legs in there. We will hear from Eric Russo in regard to that. Jim Montgomery speaking to the media. I think he's supposed to be going about 10 minutes ago, and we'll see if there's any updates, and Russo can let us know. All right, starting goalies for tonight for the Edmonton Oilers, 25-year-old Stuart Skinner, 28, 13, and 2 with a .264 goals against average, .905 save percentage, 2 shutouts in 44 games this season. Skinner versus Boston, 1-2-1 is his record, .349 goals against average, .885 save percentage in those 4 appearances lifetime versus the Bruins. And then last night, it was Jeremy Swayman in Toronto for Boston getting the win. So we anticipate 30-year-old Linus Ullmark getting the start. 16, 7, and 6 with a .280 goals against average, .910 save percentage, 1 shutout in 30 games this season. Lifetime versus Edmonton, Ullmark, a 3-2 record. .323 goals against average, .893 save percentage in 6 appearances versus the Oil. All right, let's dip into the inbox really quickly, and then we'll go to Chris Knobloch, 780-218-9999. And Yeg Sparky in the Nasty Chat says, hey, Tommy, what are your thoughts on Kuznetsov? Don't bother. Just don't. A world of talent, but a world of headaches. Just leave it. Leave it. And I think his cap hit's like $7.8 million. That's what I think of it. Yeg Sparky, I know it's tantalizing, but the stuff off the ice has been a problem, indeed. All right. Jesse also adding Buchnevich would be incredible. I'm with you, Jesse, on that one. Like, of all the names that are floating out there right now, that one to me is the most enticing because of the style he plays. His ability on the defensive side of the game sounds like it's top level. And then the offense that he's provided over the last 3 years, basically a point-a-game guy. I would like that as well. We'll see. The Oilers are open to it, and they know that Buchnevich is being shopped. All right. Let's go inside the Oilers locker room. First up, we're going to hear from head coach Chris Knobloch.
Victories, all 4 games, 2 or fewer goals against. Just a thought, is it coincidence or circumstance when that occurs? When you're less than the goals against, you have greater success?
Well, I think a lot of things have been part of that. Obviously, when you are limiting your goals against, you're going to win. And that's not just the Edmonton Oilers, every NHL team. And so that's important to keep the goals against down. And I think a lot of things are a factor of that. I think our 5-on-5 play has been a lot better last couple of weeks. The penalty kills not been giving up goals. They've been pretty sharp through this little stretch. But probably the biggest thing is goaltending. I think obviously Skins has had the majority of the games. He's played really well and picks the other day. But I think all those factors.
Now that you had a game to digest it, what do you think of the changes with the defense pairings, with Nurse going with Darnay and Kulak and Ceci?
It was just one game, and I thought they were outstanding. I liked all the pairs. A couple of guys that really thought they elevated their game, played well. It was Pittsburgh, who was at the end of a road trip, long road trip for them, and we're going to get tested a lot more tonight against Boston. But for one game, I thought they worked well together.
In your time here, Chris, how do you describe the progression of Vincent Desharnais?
I think he's always defended really well. Takes up a lot of space. He's physical. I think right now, from what I saw from day one when I got here to what he is now, just a little more confidence with the puck. I think he could make those plays, but I think he's just feeling more confidence with his game, allows him to make those plays. And just when the player has confidence, he has a little more time on the ice, and he can see that attacker pressuring down on him, or the winger that's open along the wall, or whatever the situation is. And I think he's just building his confidence to become I think he's always been a good defender. I think right now, just being a good defender and transporting the puck really well.
What do you like about Dylan Holloway playing in center?
The speed. Well, one thing, I definitely the speed would be the biggest thing. Being able to use his legs a lot more than when he's on the wall. He is pretty good on the face-offs, and I know him and when he is playing with DR, they switch, playing the face-offs on the right side, left side. But I just think he gets around the ice so well, and you know, as a winger, you're more stationary, more stops and starts. Centermen, they're moving, and you know, you look at our centermen that we have, especially McDavid and McLeod. You can see how well they move and roam around the ice. Dylan's similar to that, and I think it's his adds to his game when he's allowed to do that.
I realize the focus is on your team, but when you're prepping for Boston, is there a team that plays an aggressive zone D better than this squad does?
Boston and Vegas would be the two come to mind. Obviously the history of the coaches, obviously when a team has had success for such a long period of time, they're usually dialed in and are very good on their details, and Boston's a prime example of that. And usually details comes down to in the defensive zone, and they've been good there.
You've been around the game a long time. Trade deadline's coming. Guys are going to come. Guys maybe are going to go. Can you maybe speak a little bit about the perils of you're adding players, you're taking players out, but this is a pretty good team, and they got pretty good chemistry, and they're pretty tight off the ice as well as on the ice. Is there some peril in moving players out of something that's working pretty good?
You always have to be careful about making changes just for the fact of changing. You have to be careful of, yes, you may be adding a player that's a high-quality player, but you have to know the effect on what you're taking out of your lineup, and maybe you're disrupting the chemistry within the team or chemistry within that line mate or whatever it is. And I think it's really important to add the right type of player. And often you look at the best player available doesn't usually work out the best. And, I think the conversations that I've had with Ken and Ken's had with numerous people within the organization on what's best for us. And I think Ken's got a great handle on what we need. That being said, I like our team. I think we've got a lot of good players, and I guess we'll see on Friday.
Probably better to phrase this, but going back to the deep pairings, when will you know that you have it, quote unquote? Obviously the deep pairings have worked pretty well, and when you're looking at those two that you're changing, what are you kind of, looking for?
Well, I think, the other night it was an easier game for us to play. Our team played well. It wasn't Pittsburgh's best game, and everything looked like, that's the way we should be playing. But as we play some tougher games, especially when we're on the road, we'll find out exactly how much we like those pairs. And, it's ongoing, and maybe it's for a certain opponent and then we switch back. We'll see.
All right, there was head coach Chris Knobloch as we welcome in Eric Russo, Bruins reporter from Boston. Russo, what's going on, pal?
Hello,
hey, how are you? What's Jim Montgomery up to? Because you were just in his presser a few minutes ago. Any updates on the lineup? Anything noteworthy that we need to talk about?
Well, he left us hanging on one of the forward spots for tonight, so we'll have to see what happens on the fourth line, but it seems like there's a game-time decision there. It was Jacob Lauko, Jesper Boquist, and Justin Brazeau last night, so we'll see what it ends up being tonight, but he always seems to leave us hanging these days with a little something, so we'll see.
All right, we'll wait for warm-up. I'm sure someone will tweet it out, and we'll update all of our viewers and listeners for sure. All right, it was a successful night yesterday in Toronto, 4-1 victory for the Bruins. In your opinion, what were the keys to that success yesterday in TO?
Defense. The way the Bruins played in their own end. I mean, that all around, that was probably their best game of the season, just considering what had happened Saturday on Long Island, which was probably the worst game of the season overall and defensively. So they really shored things up last night in Toronto. And I obviously, you know, we know the Maple Leafs are a high-powered team with the talent they have up front. So for the Bruins to do that on the road, coming off that win or that loss over the weekend and the way they played, I think they're really, really happy with it. And I think it's really a game they can build on moving forward and say, you know, this is what we're used to. This is the way that we played to get us to the top of the league the last couple of years. And Jeremy Swayman was lights out in net as well. I think when I mentioned, when we talked a couple weeks ago when I was in Edmonton, we had said the goaltending maybe had slipped down a bit, but last night Swayman was playing that all-star caliber goal again, and it really helped the Bruins.
Eric Russo joining us now, Bruins reporter, as we get set for the Oilers and the Bruins. Edmonton kicking off a 4-game Eastern Conference road trip. Since that 6-5 OT win in Edmonton on the 21st, Eric, 3 OT losses to close out the Pacific Division road trip, pair of wins, and a regulation loss as well. What have been some recurring themes during that 6-game stretch since we saw you here in town?
Yeah, what a weird road trip that ended up being for the Bruins. We started off with you guys in Edmonton, and what a night that was, and what a game that ended up being. And then it sort of just continued for the Bruins. The rest of the trip, it was all overtime or shootout, some blown leads, just some uncharacteristic mistakes from the Bruins, again, especially defensively, that really left everybody sort of wondering what was happening. But the other side of that was they were in every game. They were leading in the third period. I think mentally there was a little bit of a dip in the third period. Like once the team pushed, it was like, here we go again. And it sort of snowballed. And then the Bruins came home and played one of their best first periods of the year against Vegas, went up 3-0. And then the same thing happened. They gave it all away. And we're able to pull that one out late with a big goal in the third period from Mason Lohrei. But it's been a weird couple of weeks for the Bruins. Some really nice stretches of hockey against Vegas, and again last night against Toronto. But some really questionable games like that one on Long Island over the weekend, and the third period has been a problem overall as well.
Yeah, and on the flip side, for Edmonton, the third period has been a strength all season. Second period has caused some issues like we saw in that game against Boston a couple of weeks ago. So that could be interesting heading into tonight. I don't know if we're going to get the 11-goal outburst offensively today. Maybe we will. If we do, that's going to be high-flying and enjoyable. But I wanted to throw this at you, Russo, because 22 overtime games out of 63 games played so far for the Bruins. Like, that's a roller coaster ride of emotions for our fan base. You know, check your heartbeat. The heart attacks might be through the roof. But what's up with all this OT action, and how comfortable are the Bruins in extra time and the shootout, considering they've been to so many?
Yeah, well, the employees aren't getting overtime for all these overtime
Attaboy. Attaboy.
It's just really, it's bizarre. It really is. It's just, I think what it says is the Bruins are in pretty much every game they play, right? You can't go to overtime if you're not in the game. So that's the plus side of it. The downside, again, is a lot of those games have been sort of giving away a lead. It's not like the Bruins are chasing and they're tying the game late. They hadn't scored with an empty net until last week. So it wasn't like they were chasing and they were tying games up and going to overtime. These were games that they were giving away. So that's been, again, an uncharacteristic part of this. I think when you think of having Patrice Bergeron out there for the last couple of minutes or for so much time during the third period for so many years, both a calming effect and just his talent, right? A 6-time Selke winner. So I think the Bruins are still adjusting to not having Patrice out there in the third period, and you're seeing it. And I think it's leading to a lot of these overtime games and these shootouts. And you asked if they're comfortable. I can't say they are, considering the number of OT losses. I mean, we're at 14, which is tied with the Islanders for the most in the league. The Bruins had 5 all of last season. They didn't lose much in general last year, but you're talking about 3 times as many overtime losses already to this point. So I think 3-on-3 has been a struggle. They haven't really figured it out, and they've never been a good shootout team. I can't figure out why, given some of the talent that they have when you're talking about Pastrnak and Marchand and Coyle and some of these guys that are really good in the shootout. But I can't say they've been comfortable, but they're certainly building some experience in overtime in the shootout. Unfortunately, it doesn't really pay off for you, because in the playoffs it's 5-on-5, right? So I think the Bruins sort of look at it that way, that it's kind of a fluke, and they move on, they're getting points.
How's the fan base handling all of this and the type of season it's been and these overtime games? And I'm assuming, and Boston's a great hockey city for those that haven't had a chance to get out there, see a game, or experience Bruins fans. Obviously, a rich history with this being the centennial, and Russo, you're all over that. The fan base, are they rational, calm, unperturbed, or do they just go berserk when something goes sideways?
Oh, very rational. That's what we're all about here in Boston.
Right.
Just keeping calm all the time. No, I mean, I think this, again, it's a unique year. Like, I think a lot of people didn't have the expectations for the Bruins, given all the losses over the offseason and the way things ended last year. So I think people thought this would be a down year. And then you come out and you have a 9-0-1 start, the best start in franchise history. You really set yourself up when you have a start like that. And, they've been in the top 2 or 3 in the league ever since. So the expectations come back right away for this fan base. And when you don't play as well, like has been the case over the last couple of weeks, they're not happy, even though maybe their expectations are more of what they thought at the beginning of the season. They may have thought this is the way it was going to look for most of the year. But like I said, once you play and show that you can still be a good team, the expectations go back up, and that's where some of the criticism comes. And that's Boston. That's the way it is. There's 2 sports talk radio stations here. There's 2 sports television stations that are on 24/7. And so, it says a lot about the passion, but certainly not always saying things with a grain of salt either.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you indeed. Eric Russo joining us now as we get set for the Oilers and the Bruins. I did mention it is the Bruins centennial. I love what they did with the uniforms, the gold touch, just a really nice way to celebrate. I think the Habs had like 6 or 8 different uniform combinations when they did theirs in 08-09. What are some of the highlights for you? Because I know that there's some classic Bruins still kicking around that stayed in Boston. I think former Edmonton Maple Leaf Athletic Club member Johnny Busick is still with the team, if I'm not mistaken. Some of the things that you're just, this season going, oh my God, somebody pinched me. Did I really get the opportunity to do that? What have you been able to do, and how has the franchise celebrated its centennial?
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many moments like that over the course of the year, starting with before the year with the all-centennial team that was unveiled, and historic 100, the 100 most legendary players in Bruins history, which was a big project for us over the summer. We've had 4 era nights already this year, celebrating the different eras of Bruins hockey, and the last one will be Thursday night with the current era of Bruins hockey from 2001 until the present, which will have a big focus on 2011, obviously, and that Stanley Cup team. So can't reveal a lot about what's going to happen Thursday night, but I think the fans will be quite happy to see some of the faces that'll be back here at TD Garden for that. And it's just been awesome to see so many of the players that have come back for these nights over the course of the year. The organization has done such a great job to bring them and their families in for these, not just for the era nights, but for dinners the night before that are private.
Yes.
aren't on Behind the Bee and aren't on Nesson or anything like that. They're just for them to get back together and relive some of those moments. So it's been really cool to hear some of those stories and just to see how much they appreciate being back together after all these years. And, you know, obviously the Bobby Orr Big Bad Bruins era night was really special. They had never had the chance to raise their Stanley Cup banners to the rafters. That was just a tradition that wasn't a thing back in the day.
Wow.
They showed up opening night and the banners were already in the rafters. So they got the chance to do that for the first time. And I know Bobby especially was really emotional about it and the opportunity to do that 50 years later. So that's one of the highlights. And opening night was tremendous. There was about 40 to 50 alumni that came in and walked a gold carpet outside with thousands of fans outside TD
cool.
Garden. So there's been a lot of those moments throughout the year, and you know, like I said, more to come this week, and then the actual 100th anniversary is in December. So there's more to come throughout the rest of 2024.
That is really neat. Former Maple Leaf Athletic Club member Johnny Boychuk, I'm assuming, will be there for Era Night. I know you don't want to give away much, but I'm sure Johnny will be there. Good Edmonton boy from the north side. And yeah, exactly. I'm sure Andrew Ferentz will be there too. Are you on a first-name basis with Mr. Robert Orr?
You know what? Now I am, and that has probably been the most surreal moment of the centennial celebration. Was at our golf tournament to start off the year. Damn. I had to do something with him for something we were working on, and they told me to be there at a certain time, and he was going to be ready to go. And I showed up, and he said, "Hey, Eric's here." And I said, "All right, I've made it. I can go home now." Boom. Bobby, my name. And you know, I've had the chance to meet him several times over the years, but you never know, you know, somebody like that, how much they know who you are. So that's to have that moment, certainly one of the great ones of this centennial celebration so far.
I love it. I'm jealous. That is great. A milestone tonight, Eric. James Van Riemsdyk, who's put together a pretty solid NHL career, 1,000 games. How has he amalgamated into this Bruins lineup and fit in with this team?
Yeah, he's been tremendous, really. You know, he's got 27 assists, which is 5th on the team. So he's been putting up the points. He's had 2 or 3 3-point games this year. So he's come in and had a bit of a resurgence after somewhat of a down year last year in Philly. But, you know, he just spoke a few minutes ago before I came up here to talk to you, and he was reflecting on, you know, what 1,000 games means for a player and just how surreal it is. And he said, you know, to be able to do it with a team like the Bruins in this centennial year is really special for him. So he's been a great veteran ad for the Bruins, and like I said, has contributed offensively, which the Bruins needed with some of those guys that they lost in the offseason. Right. When you're talking about Taylor Hall and Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci and those guys. So he's been really good, a good veteran presence in the room that the guys have really taken to. And he's played up in the lineup. He's played with David Pastrnak. He's played on the third line with Trent Frederick and Morgan Geekie, which he'll be there again tonight. And he's been on the fourth line a couple of times too. So he's been up and down, and he's found a way to contribute. And he's been on the power play as well, which everybody knows he's so good in front of the net. And he's really picked up a lot of his points in that role this year.
He's been a good NHLer for a long time. Certainly. Eric Russo joining us now, Bruins reporter. The Bruins, Eric, 2 points back of Florida, jockeying for position with the Panthers at the top of the Atlantic Division. It is deadline week. Friday is going to be a big one. You can catch all your deadline needs right here on EST, an extended oil stream from 11 to 2 p.m. as we'll see if the Oilers can make some big moves and continue their push for a Stanley Cup. Bruins will be doing the same. Do you have a sense of what Don Sweeney might be looking for, or any pressing needs that are getting a lot of attention going into the deadline in Boston?
Yeah, I mean, both him and Cam Neely spoke to the media in different interviews over the course of the last week and talked about, you know, some of that grit and that, you know, that playoff style hockey that needs to be played that maybe the Bruins were missing a little bit last year in the first round, and again at times this year. So I think that's something that they'll be looking for. That's something that they've talked about, whether that's on the back end or up front. We talked about that 2011 team that's going to be celebrated this week. I know things have changed quite a bit in the NHL over the last 12 or 13 years, but there's still an element of that rough and tumble, tough, gritty hockey that is needed at the biggest time of the year. And I think Bruins management realizes that, and that's going to be one of their top priorities here over the next couple of days. I think it's interesting that, in recent years, Don Sweeney has seemed to strike well ahead of the trade deadline, and maybe that's been the case across the league. This year, it seems like things have been a little slower to develop. So we're getting down to the deadline here with a couple of days to go. So it'll be interesting to see what develops. But obviously, the Bruins are in a different spot this year. They don't have the draft capital that they've had in the past, given some of the moves they had to make last year and the couple years before that when they were going for a Stanley Cup. So that makes it much more difficult on Don Sweeney. So we'll see what he's able to do here over the next couple of days. But like I said, I think that tough, gritty, hard to play against style is what you'd be looking for in anybody that they try to acquire.
Eric, fantastic stuff as always, my friend. I just want to take one guess at who got the biggest ovation from the 80s teams. Reggie Lemlin, right?
Reggie got a nice little cheer.
He was good. He was good.
He was good.
Yeah.
Well, he was the goalie when the Bruins broke their curse against Montreal, 45 years of playoff losses to Montreal. So he's got a famous celly that he sort of reenacted when he got onto the ice. So I think the fans appreciated that.
I recall they lost to a certain Alberta-based team in the Stanley Cup final. Was it that year or the year prior? I don't know. You'd have to refresh my memory.
I wasn't born yet, but I've heard the story.
Yes. Russo, always great to catch up with you. Thank you for the insight. Always appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the Centennial, and say hi to Penzi for me, all right?
I will do, Tom. Thanks for having me, as always.
That is Eric Russo, Bruins reporter. Catch him, eRusso22 on X and Bruins TV. Doing great work there. Just straight up excellent at what he does, and really appreciate Russo coming on to share some insight into the Bruins going into action tonight. It is cool, like a centennial celebration. You think about it, they've had so many great teams. They went on a huge, there was a huge gap between Stanley Cup victories, right? What was it, 72 to 2011? They had a couple of cups prior to the 70 win. And it is a phenomenal sports city, Boston, rich in straight up history and then sports history, and then it is a great hockey town as well. And Boston College, BU, the programs that run out of there are second to none, and so they know their game and they're celebrating their pro team. And it's cool too to know a few people that were part of that organization, and they share their stories about it and what it was like on championship teams. And so it'll be really neat to see the 2011 team celebrated this Thursday, I believe Eric was saying. So that's cool. Johnny Boychuk. I went to high school with Boychuk, Zach to come.
Oh, what? Really?
He's a couple years older than me, yeah.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah. So really good guy. We get to catch up with him every now and then. He came on Hello Hockey a few weeks ago, now working in the Islanders organization in player development.
Beauty.
Yeah.
Absolute
really
beauty.
Good guy. Really good guy.
Yeah. Jerseys are nice. Everything about this year for the Bruins for the centennial celebration.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Like, yeah. I just love it. And I like their jerseys, and the logo is classic. I mean, they kind of redid it a little bit, but yeah, it's a good touch. And I just wanted to add breaking news. Elliot Friedman said that the trade for Anthony Mantha was this year's second-round pick and a fourth-round pick for this year as well. So that was price for Mantha to get shipped over to Vegas.
Second rounder and what?
A fourth.
And a fourth. All right.
Yeah,
so
of this year.
That to me, I don't know if Mantha was commanding or there was talk about a first for him earlier, but on Sunday night, I was told that teams were being pretty stubborn, at least the sellers were, and wouldn't come off of the first rounder. The Flames didn't get a first rounder for Tanev. We didn't see a first-rounder here from Mantha, who's a 20-goal scorer this year. So maybe things are shaking loose now a little bit.
Like, I don't know. I thought, I don't know if he would have got a first-rounder. I mean, you want to sell, right? You don't want to hold on and then, not get anything. Right. But at the same time, I don't know how many teams were, I guess, in that conversation, in that party for Mantha. I mean, I know Tanev had a lot of backing calls.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's interesting to see.
See what happens. Maybe we get some more deals by the end of the night. We'll keep you posted for sure. 780-218-9999. If you want to get in on the conversation, you're listening on iTunes or iHeartRadio, tune in, or our EdmontonSportsTalk.com audio stream. And if you're watching on YouTube, get in the nasty chat, please. And thank you. Nasty chat. What are we going on here? You guys are crazy. All right, we're going to go inside the Bruins locker room now. Kass is coming up shortly. We have the 1,000-game man playing in the milestone game tonight. James Van Riemsdyk spoke to the media earlier today. Let's get to that.
Yeah, it's definitely it feels a little surreal, to be honest. You don't kind of realize, I think, the significance of it until you get into the league. And I remember guys that were kind of around this point when I was coming in, and to think it's all these years later is pretty cool. So I think definitely moments like this obviously are cool to just share with kind of your support system that help you make it to this point over a long time. And obviously there's ups and downs along the way. So you feel lucky to get the support that you have from your family, friends, and people closest to you and things like that. So I think you definitely start to think about some of those things at a time like this.
What do you personally reflect on when you hit a milestone like this?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to process, to be honest. It's obviously when you're right in the middle of the season like this, right towards the stretch run of the season, we're trying to obviously going for such a huge goal that we have, and a goal bigger than individuals and a team goal. So, but yeah, no, I mean, obviously to hit a milestone like this is very. It's hard to put into words, to be honest, a little bit, but it's super exciting to get a chance to play in this league for as long as I have, and you definitely feel super honored, and you don't take that for granted, and grateful, and again, getting a chance to play here in Boston this last year has been amazing, and definitely happy to be a part of this.
Do you appreciate that the pregame celebration gets to come with Philadelphia here on Saturday?
Yeah, that'll be something that's pretty cool too. To have it again, a lot of history there. Came into the league with them, got drafted by them, spent a lot of years, a lot of games there. Was there through two different, kind of very different phases of my life, when I was very young and then older, and then having a family and things like that. So yeah, that's definitely something that'll make it even a little bit more special.
None of the other sports really have milestones, like this. So why do you think hockey, 1,000 games, why do you think that's so significant, and what goes into playing that many games?
Yeah, for sure. I think, like I mentioned before, like having that support system, I think it definitely helps having that to manage through all the ups and downs, and to have that have people helping you along the way through that. And again, obviously the game that we play is obviously a physical game, and there's lots that can happen in that respect. So yeah, being able to deal with all those things over the years, the different bumps and bruises, and to get to this point, yeah, there's lots of stuff along the way that each player has to go through. So yeah, I think it's just it's pretty cool. I think that our game does something like this, and it's definitely cool to hit a milestone like this.
You mentioned your support system. Anyone here special tonight?
Yeah, so I've got pretty much my immediate family here. So I got my wife and my kids, and my parents will be here. So for the actual kind of ceremony and things like that, it'll be a much bigger group of former coaches, teammates, more extended family and stuff like that. But to have the people here tonight too, that you'll be able to hear at both of those things is pretty cool, and definitely really exciting.
There's James Van Riemsdyk, the 34-year-old, playing in career game number 1,000 tonight. That is a notable milestone, and we certainly applaud that. He has 629 points so far in his career, 311 goals, 318 assists, pretty consistent. This is a guy that's also put up 38 points this season in 59 games, and just a good pro for a long time as we welcome in our game analyst, Matt Kassian. Kass, you played against Van Riemsdyk. Like, not a lot of guys can carve out long careers where they're just steady contributors, and teams are willing to sign them even when they're in their early to mid-30s.
Yeah, it's tough to do, and had a chance actually to spend a good chunk of I guess that was a lockout. He was skating there in Minnesota. I was there too, so there's a bunch of guys that were skating there. So yeah, good guy. As you said, Tommy has carved out a great career. Really hard to do it consistently for that long a time when you're dealing with health issues, dealing with all kinds of things. So pretty amazing achievement. I mean, for anyone to hit that 1,000 game mark. So good for JVR. Good to see. He's a good dude. So I appreciate him getting to that 1,000 game mark.
An easy guy to applaud and root for in general, because didn't seem to be a guy that made a lot of noise for the wrong reasons. Second overall pick in 2007, couple stints with Philly, some time in Toronto, and now in Boston. And so he plays in career game number 1,000 tonight. We had Eric Russo on from Bruins TV, Kass, and he was talking about the centennial, and they're celebrating the 2011 Stanley Cup team. And you think about it, like, they have had some amazing players roll through that organization over the years. Do you recall your times playing against the Bruins and the difficulties that they would provide to the opposition on a nightly basis?
Yeah, they were. I mean, I really like playing them because they played a pretty physical style, which meant that I usually knew I was going to be in the lineup. So I got to play them a whole bunch. Actually, also in Boston, one of the most ridiculous pregame skates I've ever had.
Why?
That got absolutely bag skated in pregame skate with them knowing full well that I was playing that night, like ridiculously so. So my legs were so heavy. It was awful. Actually, also, and on a more somber note, was in Boston, scheduled to play the night of the Boston Marathon bombing.
Right.
So we were there, like really a block and a half, 2 blocks away from where everything happened. Which is one of my, I would say, bigger memories of playing in Boston. You know, you didn't know what's going on. Everyone, the media and the news, the police, and everyone was trying to figure out what was going on. And we ended up going to the rink that night, not knowing if we were going to play or not. And obviously the right decision in not playing. So that game ended up getting canceled. Remember that about the Bruins, but as a whole, I mean, they were a big, tough team. Almost had one of my great play taken away by Zdeno Chara at a time. So I was, I was playing left wing, but for whatever reason, I was on the right wing in the defensive zone. Good outlet pass to me. Chara decided to pinch. I saw him coming. I chipped the puck by him. We had center help through, and Eric Condra, who was my the other winger, he was pushing the pace through. So I sent, and I'm like, great, 2-on-1. Just sprung us on a 2-on-1. This is amazing. This is awesome. Perfect play. Well, Chara turns, takes 2 steps, and dives for the puck, and covers basically the entirety of the blue line to blue line, like full dive, full stretches out. So he's got like 15 or 16 feet of distance there.
Yes.
And somehow manages, like, as he's sliding, to just poke the puck. Where Eric Condra's trying to skate into it, and sends it down into their own zone, so it turns into a nothing burger of a play. And I was just so mad. I was like, this is stupid. Like, the guy's like 8 feet tall, and he's got like an 8-foot stick, and he literally spans almost the entire distance between the blue lines when he turns and jumps like that. So it ruined what I thought was not necessarily a crowning achievement in my career, but I'm like, it would have been a really nice play, and I would have liked to have been in on that one, but didn't happen because Chara was huge. That's another little Boston memory.
That guy is a giant, Kass, a giant. And I remember,
freak. And I mean that in the best way possible. Like just an athletic freak. Just could do in the stories. I played for trainers and different people that had Chara at different points in his career, in junior and outside of junior, and just the stories they would tell about him, and guys that played with him. Just rolling into training camp. Normally big guys like myself, you're doing like your full strict pull-ups. Like, you get like 14. I think I maxed out like 14 or 15, where I was just like That's a really good number for a big body, a lot of weight. You're pulling it a long distance with long levers. Like little guys, they just power through them. Well, the stories about Chara is that he hit like 40 something and then just decided he was done. Yeah, decided he was done. Like wasn't like didn't fatigue out of it. Was just like, yeah, okay, that's enough. And got off. Now, I don't know if that 40 number is accurate or not. That was just hearsay from one of the other guys that played with them in Boston, but just insane. But yeah, when you look back at it, really the last 10 to 15 years, as you said, Tommy, they've had some really, really special players there, really, really good players that were good for a long time, which is what made the Boston Bruins good for a long time. They were able to keep just a really, really solid core intact. And they're getting towards the end of that here. With that being said, I thought they were going to take a step back this year, and they didn't. They have continued to find a way to be a really good, really relevant team. But yeah, it's a pretty storied organization, and you know what? Let's hope the Oilers take it to them tonight.
Well, Edmonton has won 6 of its last 7 at Boston, including 3 straight victories. So we'll see if they can add to that. It is Matt Kassian and Tom Gazzola alongside Zach to come right here on the Oil Stream pregame show. Get in on the conversation. Text us 780-218-9999, as well as in the nasty chat if you're watching on our EST YouTube channel. We appreciate that so very much. Joining in on the chatter is always fun. Time now to get to Game Changers with Matt Kassian. Brought to you by Damon Bunting RE/MAX Elite. Damon Bunting, consistent top-producing realtor in Greater Edmonton and among RE/MAX realtors. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. Check him out, DamonBunting.com, or visit his Instagram at DamonBuntingRealEstate. Kass, let's go. Number 1, a hot Hyman.
Ooh, red hot. Red hot. Has another 2 against Pittsburgh at home, extends that home scoring streak. Just unbelievable. They're looking for the hat trick for him. And Tommy, he's getting into the conversation of could he score 60, which is pretty nuts. On pace for, I think it's like 58 or 57 right now from a pacing standpoint, which is just crazy. But he just continues to find ways to put the puck in the net. And I've started saying this more and more often for young players or for moms or dads that are watching that have kids. It's great to watch Connor McDavid. It's wonderful to say, hey, you want to be like Connor McDavid. I think it's more wonderful and more realistic to tell your young guys and girls that are playing hockey to model your game after Zach Hyman, because he does so many things well out there. He plays solid defensively, goes to the hard area of the ice. If you look at his goal scoring chart, it's like he has like 1 or 2 goals that are outside of like that 5-foot mark from the crease, which is just nuts. Like everything's right around the net. Sort of reminiscent of like a Ryan Smith-esque goal, except, there's more cameras. So he only gets credit for the ones he actually scores instead of being able to, sneak a couple in there.
What do you say about Smitty?
Nothing. I'm not saying anything bad about it. I love Smitty.
Yes.
I love Smitty. But Smitty loved to chisel goals.
He loved to get his cookies.
Love to get his cookies.
Yes.
And Hyman does too.
Yes.
But he works for those, Tommy. He works for those and has just continued to be such a huge part of this group and a huge part of the Edmonton Oilers' success. And he's going to be still moving forward. I mean, you look at it, I would anticipate that tonight's going to be a much tighter checking game with better goaltending at both ends of the ice than the last game against Boston. And in those types of games, guys that are scoring those gritty goals become that much more important, just being around the net, generating some of those chances. So for Zach Hyman, hey, he's not been the guy, but he's been one of the guys for the Edmonton Oilers all season long. Another big night, road game. Want to see that grittiness around the net. And, he's just riding that wave of being red hot, Tommy. So look for more from Zach Hyman tonight.
42 goals in 58 games, 61 points. An 80-point season is absolutely within reach. Definitely 50 goals. And like Kass said, who knows if he gets hot or continues. He's already on fire, but if he continues the hot hand and chips in with some more multi-goal games, we could be talking about a 60-goal season for Zach Hyman. A good contract there that Kenny Holland signed him to. All right, number 1 was a hot Hyman. Number 2 on Game Changers tonight, Kass, Big Vinnie.
Big Vinnie, another opportunity to play with Darnell Nurse here. We talked about it after the game about the shift in the defensive pairings heading into the Pittsburgh game. They keep the same pairings heading into tonight in Boston, and I think it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge for them. You know, Pittsburgh, they didn't have a lot of jump. They didn't have a lot of energy. They were flat, and to be frank, they weren't great. Now Edmonton did a great job of just playing consistently throughout the game, controlling the whole time. Like they played a solid game. But I don't think, Nurse Desharnais were tested that much. And for Vinnie Desharnais, if you're going to be playing in some more situations, you're going to be getting some assignments of having to deal, especially without last change with, Pavel Zacha and David Pastrnak and Danton Heinen coming at you. That's a lot more speed. And I would say with players like Pastrnak, and I want to be careful here because I don't want to disparage Sidney Crosby, because Sidney Crosby is one of the best that ever played.
Yes.
But Pasternak's still at a different level right now for where he is in his career. And if you watch that last Boston game, man, he is slick in the offensive zone. Very, very slippery, very, very shifty, difficult to contain, skates very well, spins off of people very well, and it could be a challenge. So for Vinnie Desharnais, I mean, you got your work cut out for you tonight. You want to talk about testing different groupings and testing different defense pairings and the maybe possibility of having Vinnie Desharnais play with Darnell Nurse in the playoffs. Well, he's got to be able to do it against top-end groups, and you're going to get that test tonight. So a big night for him, big opportunity for him. He's earned it. We've talked about that too. Yep. He has earned this opportunity. We have to see tonight what he makes of it, Tommy, because I think he's going to get challenged a little bit more. And, a big part of the Oilers' success hinges on how he responds to that challenge.
And Kass, this was something that you told me the other night. I don't think necessarily it was on air, but you and I were discussing the shuffle of the D pairings. And then I followed up to ask a few people with the team what that was about. And you indicated that you think it had to do with the struggles that 25 and 5 were having together in the last couple of weeks, more so compared to does it open up showcase or to see and test Desharnais with someone else. And I was told it is more so to freshen things up because 25 and 5 were indeed struggling, like you alluded to. So again, credit to you for picking up on that.
Yeah, they were just
all about.
They were just out of sync.
Yeah.
And players that play with Darnell Nurse, and I'm not going to look at the contract, not going to talk about that, but he at times can be a difficult player to read with what he's going to do. Mm-hmm. And he at times, and some of that's from an aggressive thing, and you want Darnell Nurse to be aggressive. Like he's at his best when he's playing aggressive, and he's not overthinking his game when he's just reacting.
Right.
But what that also does at times is it does mean that he will chase in the defensive zone, and it does mean he will do things that are, I'll call it, outside of the typical protocol. Of what defensemen do, which can be difficult to read. And if for like a Cody Ceci, if you're the one that's a stable one in the group and you're having trouble reading it, and all of a sudden you have a confidence issue is a pair because of that, well, maybe a little bit of a fresh look can help, which is again where I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I don't think it's a trade bait window. You're moving to a setup where if Desharnais can be steady on that second pairing, well, now you have actually 3 solid pairings. Because Kulak and Ceci, both smart players, both move well, and you can have a solid third pairing there that really, you're not worried about putting out against anybody. Like you could have that Kulak Ceci pairing out against the Pastrnak line and not necessarily be like, oh my goodness, we got to get these guys off the ice. So yeah, I'm not surprised that you heard that, Tommy, because I'm always right.
That's right. That's why you're our game analyst. It is Game Changers with Matty Kassian. Number 1 was a hot Hyman. Number 2, Big Vinnie. Number 3, transition turnovers, Kass.
Yep, what absolutely crushed them. Now they almost come back, I think, because of bad goaltending on Boston's part in that game against them the other day. But it just absolutely they punished themselves with those turnovers in transition. Absolutely punished themselves against Boston. Now they've cleaned up quite dramatically since then. They're playing much better than they were at the time. But again, against, on the road, that the whole old hockey adage, just keep it simple, play a simple road game. You do need to, there's certainly something to that against, again, a Boston team that has quite a bit of depth up front that can burn you, and players like David Pastrnak, who's one of the best players in the world. You cannot give them those extra opportunities in transition by just giving the puck away. You have to force them to earn everything that they get. They have to earn every grade A opportunity they get versus just kind of just here you go, here you go, here you go, which is again what we saw a ton of against Boston last time they played a couple weeks ago. So a big opportunity for this group tonight to right the ship against a top team in the league, to extend this, turn this kind of mini winning streak into a good solid winning streak, to continue to try to close the gap on Vancouver, and to just solidify your spot in the division.
Kass, like you said, this Boston team does come at you in waves. They don't have a ton of high-end scorers. They have Pasternak at 90 points, certainly. He's been a beast, but they have 8 guys with 30-plus points, and then they have a couple of guys that are right there, just below 30. Edmonton, obviously, with a ton of offense, but Edmonton, I'm looking to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Edmonton has 7 guys with 30-plus points on the season. So depth with this Bruins team, and that has contributed to them being 36, 13, and 14. 22 games that have gone to OT/a shootout. They've lost 14 of them, Kass. That's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And if you think if they win more of that, like if they're even 500 from a shootout standpoint, I mean, they're doing even better from a record. So they're comfortable playing in tight games. They're comfortable playing teams tightly, and again, it is the type of game, and we saw Edmonton lose to Boston in overtime. Where you could take 65 minutes, it could take a shootout, and you're fine with that. Like you are fine with that. It doesn't matter when you win. But certainly a Boston team that has a ton of depth, that's comfortable playing in tight games, and for all that they're trying to get and continually getting younger now, kind of getting younger on the fly, they do have that depth and that experience.
Kass, this is a 4-game Eastern Conference road trip, Boston, Columbus, Buffalo, and Pitt. What is your expectation from the Oilers on this trip?
I mean, if you come out of this 2-1-1, I think it's a positive. Anything less, you're disappointed. You want to go over 500. That's the bottom line. Is you look at this trip, you say we've won a whole bunch of games in a row now. We were struggling a little bit before that. If we stay over 500 on the trip, I think that's a win.
Edmonton shooting for a 5th consecutive victory. We'll take on a Boston team that won last night 4-1 in Toronto. Kass, it is trade deadline week, and we're already starting to see moves. We see Anthony Mantha move from the Capitals to the Golden Knights for a 2nd-rounder in 24 and a 4th-rounder in 26. Do you think that this is going to be the start of the floodgates opening up, and what do you make of that move for Vegas?
It very well might be. Well, Vegas, we know, just absolutely crushed with injuries right now. They have cap space because of it, and they needed, they're losing hockey games, and they needed to bring someone in. So it's not overly surprising. I didn't know. I don't want to say I'm shocked with Mantha, but I didn't. When I was thinking of the Vegas Golden Knights, Mantha wasn't the first name that came to mind.
Right.
With that being said, he kind of fits the bill a little bit for them for what they need. Is it the start of the floodgates? Probably.
Yeah.
I think so. Yep. I think we'll start to see more things move now. It kind of, for any other teams that were interested in Mantha, if who knows if it was Vegas that said, is he available, or Washington that said he's available, what do you think? It's going to probably get things moving, because teams are going to look at that and go, okay, the pieces are going to start to move here. We gotta act. All
right. It is getting exciting. It is heating up, and we will have extended trade deadline day coverage right here on EST on Friday. An extended oil stream from 11 to 2 p.m. It should be a lot of fun. Kass, phenomenal work as always. I look forward to catching up with you on the postgame show.
Thanks, buddy. I look forward to it too.
That is our game analyst, Matt Kassian, with Game Changers, brought to you by Damon Bunting Remax Elite. You can text us, 780-218-9999. I've got some texts that I want to get to. And then the nasty chat continues to roll on. I do have a couple of things I do want to mention as well. Our next live on location is on March 13th at Hudson's West Edmonton Mall. Come on down. I'll be there. And I'll be giving away some GCs, and the good fine folks at Hudson's West Edmonton Mall will take care of you as we watch the Oilers take on the Washington Capitals. Shout out to Steve and Adam over at Hudson's West Edmonton Mall on Bourbon Street. It's been a lot of fun. Both locations, White Ave, Connor and his crew there, fantastic to do the shows there. And then, of course, Steve and Adam over on the Bourbon Street side of town. Come on down. Check it out. I've got some GCs that I'm ready to give away, and also some wing GCs, too. If you want some wings, I gave you some, Zach, to come. Making sure you're a growing boy. You need to eat.
Yeah, I enjoyed those GCs. I went there. It was a lovely time there at Hudson's. It was a great atmosphere. I was there for one of the games, and everyone was having a good time. That was when the wing challenge was happening.
That's over now,
but that's
that was
over.
Crazy.
That's insane.
That is insane.
But even on a regular night, it's pretty chill.
Yeah.
They got good screens, good views of the
everywhere.
screens. Food's amazing, so
Drink
come on down to
specials.
Hudson's. Yeah.
And they do bring in 6 o'clock or lager on the Bourbon Street watch parties. If you want some 6 o'clock or lager in can form, you can definitely get some. Big shout out to Steve and Adam and Connor from management on the Hudson side of things, and Jay Borley, great guy as well. Lots of fun with that partnership. So we're going to have a bunch more watch parties as well as just on-location nights at Hudson. So the 13th is our next one. Also, really quickly, the Edmonton Junior Oilers blue and orange U18 AAA teams playing one another in the AEHL playoffs. That's the semifinal, and that's for the first time ever. Game 1 is Wednesday evening. Game 2, Saturday night at Bill Hunter Arena. If you want to check out some excellent AAA hockey, U18, formerly known as midget. No more midget, no more bantam, no more peewee, no more atom, no more novice, tom thumb, micromite. Gone. U18, U15. I don't even know what the other numbers are anymore. Anyway, the AAA Oilers, head-to-head. Wednesday night, Bill Hunter Arena. If you want to check out some fantastic local minor hockey, head on down and support the Junior Oilers. They've got a great program there, I've heard. A lot of positivity coming from the Junior Oilers program. So said I'd get a shout-out in. Go check them out. Wednesday night and Saturday night, Bill Hunter Arena. It's playoff time in minor hockey and junior hockey as well, right around the corner. 780-218-9999. Before we go into the Bruins locker room and then the Oilers locker room one more time, I'm going to get to these ones. Bad Billy says, so Vegas gets Mantha. I would expect he goes on LTIR for Uber cap space. And I saw Dan Tenser tweeting out that it's ridiculous that teams are able to do this and they should be cap compliant around playoff time. I don't disagree with that at all. At all. Cap's retaining 50% of Mantha's salary as well. So there you go. Wheeling and dealing. It has begun. Oily Sink, what did you send me here? Yes, got to it. Thank you for the update on that. The lines for the Oilers tonight. Here's what we're anticipating. This was what they were skating with at warm-up. McDavid with Draisaitl and Hyman. Nugent-Hopkins with Kane and Janmark. McLeod between Fogle and Perry. Holloway with Brown and Ryan on defense. Ekholm with Bouchard. Nurse with Desharnais. Kulak with Ceci. Sam Gagner placed on waivers for the purpose of reassignment to Bakersfield, as well as accruing cap space heading into the deadline. All right. You want to go into the Bruins locker room, hear from Jim Montgomery, because we already heard from Chris Knobloch. What do you think? I'll leave it in your hands.
I think we should, yeah.
All right, let's do that, Zach.
There's a couple of game-time decisions. Decor is the same. But up front, there's going to be a game-time decision. So first 3 lines are the same. I'll tell you that. That's for sure.
Any update on Hampus?
Hampus is doing really well. I don't have an official game time when he'll be back, but it's getting close.
All Mark in net tonight?
Yes.
JV has 1,000th game tonight. What have you seen from him this year? What have you learned from him?
Incredibly bright person and bright player. Understands the game at a high level and has done a lot to help build our offensive game especially.
No other sports have milestones like the 1,000th game in hockey. Why do you think that it's so significant that that number is 100 in hockey?
I think because if you look at the league, it went from 6 to 12 to 21, and even in the 21 games, it was hard to get there. It's a little more, it's happening a lot more now, you know, but 1,000 games always been a milestone of you being a true pro, of you being someone that teammates care about. You're effective in the locker room, obviously effective on the ice, or else you wouldn't get to 1,000 games. And all those things combined, it's hard to find guys that, you know, you can trust all the time. And the guys that get to 1,000 games, doesn't matter which one, they've all been guys that teammates and coaches have trusted.
When it comes to some of the contributing guys, bottom six forwards, last deep pair, have you been pleased with what you've gotten in terms of your depth this year?
Yes, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think if you look at our third line, we have 2 14-goal scorers and I believe an 11-goal scorer. And, you know, our fourth line, if you just look at the fourth line production over the course of the year, I think the goals would be above average in the league, you know. I would say that, you know, physicality and naturally sandpaper that you usually get from the third, fourth line maybe hasn't been there as consistently, but overall we've been really happy.
As you get towards the postseason or in the postseason, do you want to have more of that sandpaper type for that fourth line, or are you pleased with what you get from other lines in that? No,
I'm pleased with what we're getting. It's, you know, when we look, you know, there's different ways, right, to make people anxious, and some of it's speed, and Boqvist has really done a great job of bringing that to us. And I think Lauko's, you know, last couple of games have been his best games of the year. I really like the way he played yesterday on both sides of the puck. So, you know, and I think Brazo has added an element of a little bit of that.
All right, that was Bruins head coach Jim Montgomery. Between the pipes tonight, we're going to see Linus Ullmark for the Bruins, and at the other end of the rink, Stuart Skinner. Skinner looking to start this road trip off on the right foot, looking for a better performance against the Bruins compared to what we saw on February 21st. Here is the Oilers netminder.
Bruins who just exude excellence. Can you maybe talk about that matchup as an individual and what you're kind of looking forward to when it comes to that challenge?
Yeah, it is something that we all look forward to. I mean, they're obviously have been a great team for many, many years. As you see this year and also last year, they don't lose often. They got a great team. They know how to win. They know how to stay in games. They're a mature team over there, and I think we got the same thing over here. So I think that's why it's such an exciting matchup. It's also good for us to see kind of where we're at, you know, as we move on in the season here.
Here we go now. When it comes to Vincent Desharnais, you can maybe talk about his growth and his progression this season more than anyone else, since you're the only guy behind him each and every night. Yeah. How do you describe his growth?
It's been extremely impressive, to say the least. You know, not a lot of people see the work that's done kind of behind the scenes, and what he's done for his mental growth, for his maturity, for his physical well-being, just everything that he really puts into his life in general, I think has been probably the most impressive that I've seen. And it's extremely fun that I get to watch that. He's obviously one of my best friends, and he's a huge part of this group and a huge reason why we are able to win games. So it's not only that he blocks pretty well every shot. I think he might have a better save percentage than I do, but he's just a warrior out there. He never gives up. He'll do anything that he possibly can to help this team win. Not only that, his maturity, his leadership. He's I love the guy. So he's very impressive, to say the least.
In a moment of further reflection, I know it started way back when, but what now Oil Country calls the Vinnie Skinny Winnie. How does it feel being able to do that routinely at the NHL level?
It's pretty fun. We've been doing that ever since we were in the dog days in the ECHL. So you know, it's lovely for the fans to see, but I think for Vinnie and I, it's also a reminder of, you know, like, it's pretty cool that we get to do this at this level. You know, we used to do this at you know, a much lower level. So we're every time we do it, it's just a lot of gratification for the both of us.
Bruins star players like Marchand, Pastrnak. How do you prepare as a goaltender, you know, for those guys? Do you watch film? Do you anticipate what they're going to do on the ice? Is it more of a kind of a see puck, save puck type of thing?
I think for me, just because it's my first, you know, couple of years in the NHL, is I've been able to watch those guys at ever like when I was growing up. I was watching those guys. So you do tend to kind of pick up on some moves that they do, but all in all, the game's different every single night. You can't really tell what they're going to do, what they're thinking out there. If I could, I think I'd be a very, very, very good goalie. But for this case, it's just you just got to kind of be out there and kind of be in the flow of the game and just watch the releases. I think obviously those types of players, just the team in general here in Boston, they got so many threats offensively. So just something for me, for our whole team to make sure that we don't take lightly.
Are the Bruins one of those teams like you feel like you have to kind of go through to be a championship team and trying to assess where you are in comparison to them in terms of their consistency?
Absolutely. I think games like this, you just know they're going to be tight. You know they're going to be hard-earned wins. And kind of like just what I was saying to Tony a little bit earlier is just, they're always in the game no matter what. No matter what the score is, they know how to come back. They know how to keep a lead. They're just such a mature, high-end team. So it's a really good challenge for us.
Do goaltenders watch other goaltenders? Like, you just watch Swayman, Ullmark, you see what they do, or are you kind of in tune to what you and your routine is about?
I love watching other goalies. Obviously, for myself, it's right now it's learning the time when I do that. But yeah, I love watching goalies. I love watching games, kind of being able to see what other guys do, what I can pick up from them. Obviously, Swayman and Ullmark are both Vezina goaltenders here, and it's quite impressive to watch those guys. They're amazing athletes. As I can tell, I don't know them personally, but it looks like they're just amazing guys. They're always having fun out there. Swayman and Oli, they always say hi to me when we're stretching, so it's always fun battling against those guys.
There you go. There is Edmonton starter Stuart Skinner getting the nod. The 25-year-old, 28-13-2 this season, 264 GAA, 905 save percentage, 2 shutouts in 44 games. Skinner versus the Bruins, a 1-2-1 record, 349 GAA, 885 save percentage in those 4 appearances. Linus Ullmark, the 30-year-old, going for the Bees, 16-7-6, 280 goals against average, 910 save percentage, 1 shutout in 30 games this season. He's got a 3-2 record with a 323 GAA, 893 save percentage in 6 games against Edmonton over the course of his career. Of course, the 2023 Vezina Trophy winner. Okay, 2 games already underway in the National Hockey League, 9 games total tonight. Florida leads New Jersey 2-0 midway through the first. We've got no score between Pittsburgh and Columbus, also midway through the first. Edmonton, Boston getting ready to go. St. Louis, New York Islanders getting ready to go. Later on, we'll watch Montreal at Nashville. Seattle visits Winnipeg. Chicago's at Moulet Arena in Arizona. LA welcomes in Vancouver. And then San Jose and Dallas also close out the night. Let's get to some text to wrap things up. This one from Deaky Sparks says, when the boss is away, the 6 o'clocker lager will play. Nothing tastes better than some lager and listening to the morning show. Hope you guys are having a great afternoon. Thank you, Deaky Sparks. I hope you're listening to our show, which is the pregame show right now as well. We appreciate it. Enjoy that 6 o'clocker lager as the Oilers get set to take on the Bruins. Really quickly, in the nasty chat, this one from Machine Gun Yanmark says, Oilers better beef the F up for Vegas. That forward group just got even more bigger. Calvin C. says, dang it, Vegas just got bigger. X-Ray J says, Mantha is not an ad of any significance. Hopefully it pulls them out of the big game hunters market. X-Ray J does have 20 goals on the year. And then X-Ray J adds, thanks, Nasties, Tommy, Kass, YTT, and Zach to come see a post game. 4-3 Oilers, OT dub. McDavid Magic in OT. Joel Lavoie says, Skinner looks older than Pickard. And Talking Truth with ADC says, stress and parenthood will age you quickly. Oh, I love it. All right, Nasties. Enjoy the Oilers and the Bruins. That's going to do it for the Oil Stream pregame show. A huge thank you to Eric Russo from the Bruins. He covers them on the daily for Bruins TV. And be sure to follow him, eRusso22 on X. And then, as always, thank you to everyone who watched and to those who listened. You know we appreciate you always. For Matt Kassian and Zach to come, I'm Tom Gazzola saying, enjoy the Oilers and Bruins and see if the Oil can make it 5 straight wins. Ciao for now.